Hi, everyone. Welcome to VRAR Bytes podcast, our weekly show featuring the movers and shakers from the Central Florida chapter. Today, my guest is George Cheros, who's the president and CEO of the National Center for Simulation, which is headquartered here in Orlando. George joined NCS as the COO in 2012 and took the helm as president and CEO in 2019. Now, George earned his undergraduate business accounting degree from UCF and his MBA also from UCF. He then started his career as a finance manager with General Foods in New York before joining Red Lobster Restaurants as a director of strategic planning and moving back to Orlando in 1988. He was a founding partner of a consulting and venture company called CoAlianz that specialized in mid-market and real estate development that he ran for 15 years before joining NCS. So George, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here with you, John.
So UCF has changed a little bit from the time that you went there. Tell us a little bit about that.
It really has changed. Looking back on it, I remember it was mainly a commuter school. I think there was one dormitory in the center of campus, which is still there actually. And I remember driving to school on the East-West Expressway because I was a commuter as well. University Boulevard was a 2-lane road, believe it or not. And I think UCF had about 8,000 or 9,000 students when I was there. The football team was just getting started. They didn't have a stadium. They played the first couple of years in a high school stadium. Then they transferred over to the Citrus Bowl. And then their basketball team was nationally ranked, but it was Division II. And really, They were a great program. And their big rival was not the University of Florida, but it was Rollins. And so a lot of community spirit. But, I found that majoring in the business school, there was still a really good center of excellence. And then coming out of there, what was interesting is when I took the position with General Foods, actually, I spent a year in Winter Haven, Florida before I went to New York. They had a Bird's Eye orange juice plant there, and I was a cost analyst. And they went through a whole reorganization where they were going to sell off the frozen concentrate business. And I was given the choice that I could either go find another job or transfer to headquarters in New York. And being young and single, I said, let's go for New York. So I did that. And I remember my first couple of days on the job, I had, other MBAs from top schools asking me, where'd you go to college? And I said, the University of Central Florida. And the common question back was, is that a branch of the University of Florida? And I had to really explain what UCF was. And, the advantage to today's graduates is, they don't have to do that anymore. But really enjoyed my time there and glad to be back working with the university that I started out with.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, now students say they go to the second largest university in the United States, right?
Yeah, and I think it might, I think they're about to be the largest. So, yeah. Pretty
amazing. Okay, so George, the National Center for Simulation, can you tell us about what it is and the role that it plays?
Absolutely. So the National Center for Simulation was actually started back in the early 90s. And the whole purpose of the organization was to really promote the tech transfer of this great technology that was developed by the military and put it into other vertical markets. The original funding came from a couple of sources. One was a White House grant that flowed through NASA. We've got some private investment through Lockheed Martin and a couple of other companies. And then we also had a strong investment by the University of Central Florida, who continues today with that relationship. So what happened was they started this organization. They went out and they hired a bunch of engineers. And these engineers wrote a bunch of white papers on how you could take this technology that was developed by a large, either aerospace company or defense company and launch it into other vertical markets. They wrote these white papers. They presented it to the companies, and the companies that are primarily defense companies looked at them and said, you know what? We're in the defense business. We really don't have a great desire to branch out into other markets. But at the same time, the modeling and simulation business here was really growing. For those of you that don't know and aren't part of this community, it's a $6 billion business that emanates out of the UCF Research Park. All 4 branches of the service, 5 when the Space Force comes in, have all their technology headquarters and their acquisition headquarters for modeling and simulation and technology products. So it's a giant business that operates out of this area. It creates about 30,000 jobs across the state of Florida. So our role became to promote that industry, and we now have about 300 member companies, ranging in size from, the Lockheeds and the Boeings and the Raytheons down to single member LLCs. In fact, about 80% of our members are small businesses. And this industry has really been lucrative for small businesses because there's really not a lot of barriers to entry. The capital investment required is very low. And quite frankly, the young and up and coming software developers are the most creative and can really launch products a lot faster. And this business is really, on the government side, has a good potential for partnering large businesses and small businesses, whether it's primes and subs, or small businesses acting as a prime and hiring a large business as a sub. So a lot of good opportunity for teamwork. We help promote that. The other thing that we have done because of our relationship with the University of Central Florida and the way the research park and the base are laid out here, as we has really played a strong role in the community to help the university and the community work with the state of Florida to make that research park really attractive to the military, so they want to relocate down here. And the real impact there is, over the past 25 years, the state of Florida through UCF has built or purchased about 450,000 square feet of office space at a cost of $150 million. Most recently, in the past 5 years, NCS and UCF and the community have worked together to secure $42 million in funding from the state legislature, which allowed us to buy Partnership 4 and Partnership 5 buildings. And when you ask, what does that mean to the community? Well, the first thing it means is it allowed us to get the military out of leased commercial space at a much more reasonable cost, where they would not be at risk of being relocated in some type of base realignment and closure action. But even more important that came out of there is we got some new commands that relocated down here. One being the Army Futures Command Synthetic Training Environment Cross-Functional Team Headquarters. We have now the Persistent Cyber Training Environment branch of the Army operating out of Partnership 5. And then the military and the university pulled together to create the Central Florida Tech Grove, which will be a great catalyst for emerging businesses to come show their technology to the military and have a lot of live virtual events emanating out of that space. Finally, I mentioned the tech transfer aspect. We are working with a lot of different organizations and companies to really expose this technology, not only to other vertical markets, but work with groups, quite frankly, such as yourself, John, with the AR/VR Association, to get a lot of those suppliers that can help the military out as well. So have it going both ways. So, we're a busy group, like I said, 300 members, and really appreciate the support of all the companies, including Unity and John.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And also your Chief Operating Officer, Neil Finkelstein, is also a board advisor on the VRAR Association Central Florida chapter.
Yeah, so Neil is fantastic. When I took over this role, I replaced General Baptiste, who retired. And Tom obviously had a strong military background, and his main reason for asking me to step in the COO role is he wanted somebody with a strong business background. Right. So when he retired and I moved up to CEO, I wanted somebody with a very strong military background so we could keep that tag team going. Yep. And it just happened to be the time that Neil was getting ready to retire as chief scientist from the Army. And he approached me, and it wasn't a long discussion to get him involved. He has been such an advocate, not only for Team Orlando and technology and simulation technology, but has done a lot of great things in the world of STEM. And we've been able to create some camps for kids over the summer. We created a modeling and simulation certification program for high school seniors coming out so they could jump right into either internships or the workforce or use it on their application for college. So Neil's done a lot of great things there. There's some other big things that will be announced very shortly. I wish I could talk about it now, but I can't. But stay tuned for that as well. But, you know, STEM is a big challenge for all of our industry because we need to keep developing that workforce of the future. There's more STEM jobs out there than there are people. So we really need to continue to grow that workforce.
Excellent. Okay, so now let's shift a little bit to the technology side of the discussion. Sure. XR technology. So, you know, you represent 300 members who are the leading companies in simulation and training. You get to see all of the different technologies. So what would you say about how XR is impacting this industry?
Oh, it's impacting it in all kinds of ways. And I'll talk about it from the military's point of view first. With the advent of COVID, this technology has really allowed the military to continue on for the past 18 months without missing a beat for training. And when you think about it, you know, turn the clock back 20 years, for the military to train, they would either have to train using an alive environment or they would train in a simulated environment. But to train in a simulated environment, they had to bring them all to a base, put them in a room, or put them in a field, or put them in simulators, and they were still all together. They were just training on simulators as opposed to training live. With the advent of AR, VR, XR, mixed reality, all of that and above, they are now able to literally sit in their house, hook up to their cell phone or their iPhone, put the app on, and do their training using that all those features. And with COVID, you know, it allowed them to stay sharp while in lockdown. So not only was it a great thing to have during COVID, but they can also use that technology when they're out in the field.
Yeah.
You know, turn the clock back when they were in either Iraq or Afghanistan, or quite frankly in Afghanistan now. They can train before they go on a mission, and they can rehearse a mission using augmented reality and virtual reality on the spot. So it's really been revolutionary in terms of how they train, and now we're starting to see it in the corporate world. You know, one of the things that I've been very impressed with is how the medical community is using this technology. They can actually use it to rehearse a complicated surgery before they actually perform the procedure. That's been a bit of a leap for some of the doctors because they didn't think they needed it, but once they got exposed to it, they, like anybody else, they said, we always want to have the best tools, you know, to help sure we have the most positive outcomes coming out of our.
Well, you know, it's interesting to me. I mean, you just said something there. It's this, folks don't realize they need it, or in some cases they're against the technology because it just represents a new technology until they see it, right? And I see it all the time. The minute they put the headset on or they hold the phone up over something and they can see through it.
Yep.
That's when you know they're bought into it, right?
You literally see the light bulb go off. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating. So okay, so you know, this technology is transformational. It's not just military, it's across all industries. So what would you say is the most interesting project or application of XR that you've seen?
I think probably the most interesting one I've seen is it's actually in the medical community, and it's the University of Nebraska is really a pioneer in medical simulation. They just built a tremendous new facility out there. It's called the IXL Center. And they have developed some imaging to use with AR and VR, where you can actually, like I was talking about before, you know, walk through the human body, look at somebody's organs, look at where a tumor is or a cyst or a blood clot, and then you can step out and you can actually, you know, perform the procedure before you actually do it. So it's a great teaching tool for doctors. It's a great really, quite frankly, a communications tool to use with the patients and educating them in terms of, you know, what issues are, and allows collaboration across the medical field. You know, you can have somebody sitting in Omaha, Nebraska, and somebody sitting at the UCF med school, and they can be basically participating on the same procedure. So a lot of good things there.
Excellent. Okay, so what do you think the biggest challenges are facing adoption of XR?
I I think obviously, as with any new technology or any new business, I'll go back to the basics, economic scale. As more gets developed, costs will come down and will be more affordable. Still a little bit of a fragmented business, not completely understood by Wall Street. So in terms of funding challenges, there's an education piece there. I've heard that as you start really using this on individuals and consumers, they'll have to get over the privacy concerns. But really allowing, looking into the future and allowing somebody to either experience, they can be in New York and they want to move to Orlando, and we can put a headset on them and say, okay, you're going to walk through this house in Winter Park, and here's how it's going to feel. I think some of that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who in the VR AR community inspires you, or who do you follow to keep up with what's happening?
Well, as you can imagine, I'm involved in a lot of different things. So I look for people that I can plug into that can filter a lot of stuff for me. And somebody that I ran into a couple of years ago, and she ended up becoming our keynote speaker for last year's Florida Simulation Summit, was Amy Peck.
Yeah,
Amy is a classic strategic thinker. She can boil down, all the products and technologies so they make sense and fit into a bucket for either a business investor or an analyst or somebody like me. She's got good insight and can really bridge the technology to the capital markets and the user. So I stay in contact with her a lot. And, she has been nice enough to volunteer to help us with the planning of this year's Florida Simulation Summit going forward as well.
Oh, can you tell us about the Florida Simulation Summit? And I'll put
Absolutely.
it in the notes here at the end.
So we started the Florida Simulation Summit. This will be our 8th one this year, so 7 years ago. And it was really a joint effort between the National Center for Simulation and the Orange County Mayor's Office to promote this industry to this area. It has always been although it's a major industry, it's dwarfed by the tourism business here. And we have always wanted to make this area understand how important this technology and what it means to jobs in the industry is. So Mayor Jacobs at the time reached out to us and said, why don't we promote, put some event on at the convention center where we can promote this technology. So we started it, called it the Florida Simulation Summit. The event promotes the uses of the technology in all areas, primarily but defense. Everybody knows what we do in defense. So it was really to expose it to other vertical markets and other industries. It's open to anybody. Mayor Demings, when he got elected a couple of years ago, embraced it as well. So he and I co-hosted. Our honorary chair is Beverly C., who's a legend in this industry and a member of the Board of Trustees at UCF. She just finished her term as chair of the Board of Trustees. So Bev's been involved from day one. And this year's summit will take place on October 19th at the Orange County Convention Center. We will present it in a hybrid format, meaning both live and virtual. We learned a lot of things last year with COVID, where we had to do it in a virtual format only. We have the advantage of the use of Orange County TV as our host. So we actually filmed last year's or produced it live in their studios last year. And we were a little bit timid because we had always had it live and we had to immediately go virtual, and we knew what the challenges were. But actually what ended up happening is it ended up becoming our most successful summit ever. We had almost 500 viewers, not only from Central Florida, but from all over the world. We had presenters from 3 different continents in one panel discussion. So it allowed us to get more exposure and bring more people into the fold. So as we came into this year, A, not knowing where COVID was going to stand, but B, knowing we wanted to get back to the live production, we also realized let's make it live and virtual and do hybrid, and we'll get the best of both worlds. So we're really looking forward to it. Our theme this year, which is very relevant to what's going on, is cybersecurity, enhancing reality through digital twin technology. John, I'd like to thank you for participating in the planning and helping secure our keynote speaker, Jason Ingalls from Ingalls Information Security. He will discuss the visualization tools and techniques that are used for faster, more responsive, and tighter timely cybersecurity analysis. And John, I know you've worked with them, and if you want to jump in and add a couple of comments,
Absolutely. I think it is obviously a important topic in our nation right now. And what we're finding is by using 3D technology and XR technology, we're really finding new ways to help cyber agents, do their job. So I think it's going to be a very informative summit, and look forward to seeing the presentations.
Absolutely. And, I'll put a plug in. We're also going to have a celebrity at one of our panels. His name's John Cunningham.
All right. Last question. What would you like to see from the VRAR Association?
Well, first of all, you're doing a great job with this chapter. You came in here and started it and bootstrapped it. And it's a major player in this community, which supports all of what we're doing. So I think what I would like to see is a continuation in what you're doing to arrange for thought leaders and collaborators to get together and make big things happen. I mean, as you heard from my description of the what NCS does, we do a lot of events, we promote a lot of things, but we're really focused on making an impact and growing the industry and getting results. And we would like to continue to work with you and the VRAR Association to do that as well. So anything you can do to help us along those lines is appreciated, and you'll have my full support.
Appreciate it, George. Okay. All right. Well, look, thank you very much for spending the time with me today.
It's been a pleasure. Look forward to doing more of these and watching the future guests that you've had. You've done it in preparing for this. I got a chance to go back and see some of my predecessors on this, and I had some big shoes to fill. You've had some great guests, so look forward to it in the future.
All right. Thanks a lot, George. Have a good day, everyone.
Take care. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.